For decades, Hollywood has sold us an impossible promise that its biggest stars could somehow remain frozen in time. But behind the familiar faces we remember from television screens, movie theaters, and magazine covers, aging in public often came with a complicated price. Some stars openly chose cosmetic procedures and later questioned those decisions. Others faced unexpected complications. And in several cases, the public assumed far more than the evidence could ever prove. So this isn't a countdown of who looked better before or after. It's about 8 famous faces and 8 very different relationships with beauty, aging, identity, and the pressure to remain recognizable in an industry obsessed with youth. From procedures stars discuss themselves to transformations surrounded by years of speculation, we'll separate documented fact from rumor. And one story near the end reveals what can happen when a routine cosmetic treatment produces an outcome no one expected. Goldie Hawn spent decades playing women whose confidence seemed effortless. From Laugh-In and Private Benjamin to Overboard and The First Wives Club, that bright smile became familiar to generations of Americans. But growing older with such a recognizable face brought another kind of attention. Over the years, changes in Hawn's appearance have repeatedly fueled speculation about cosmetic procedures. Yet speculation is not confirmation. Doctors who never treated her have offered opinions based on photographs, while Hawn herself has generally kept the details of her appearance private. What she has discussed far more openly is aging. She once described getting older simply as a fact of life, and she has spoken realistically about Hollywood's ageism toward women. That distinction matters. A photograph can show that someone has changed. It cannot reliably tell us why. Perhaps Goldie's story says as much about the audience as it does about the star. We became so accustomed to her youthful image that simply watching her grow older became something people felt compelled to explain. But with our next celebrity, there is far less need for speculation, because she eventually told the story herself. Long before reality television made Lisa Rinna a household name, she made a decision that would follow her for decades. In her 20s, Rinna had silicone put into her upper lip, a choice inspired by the fuller look she admired at the time. At first, she loved the result, and as her career grew through Days of Our Lives, Melrose Place, and later reality television, those distinctive lips became almost as recognizable as her name. But permanent silicone was not something her body simply forgot. Years later, Rinna explained that scar tissue developed around the material, leaving part of her lip hard and uneven. In 2010, after living with it for years, she underwent surgery to remove damaged tissue and reduce the upper lip. What makes Rinna's story revealing isn't simply that she changed her appearance. It's that one cosmetic choice gradually became part of her public identity. People discussed her lips so often that the features sometimes seemed to overshadow the woman behind them. Rinna eventually learned to speak about that history without pretending it never happened. Her experience illustrates how a decision made in youth can remain visible long after the reasons for making it have changed. But our next star presents a harder question. What happens when the public believes it knows the story of a changing face, even when the star has never confirmed the details? For millions of Americans who followed Knots Landing, Joan Van Ark was inseparable from Valine Ewing. For more than a decade, audiences watched that expressive face move through heartbreak, motherhood, loss, and reconciliation. It made Van Ark one of television's most familiar stars. As she grew older, however, discussion increasingly shifted from her performances to her appearance. Van Ark has not been entirely silent about cosmetic work. In a 2025 conversation with her Knots Landing co-stars, plastic surgery became something they discussed openly rather than treating as an embarrassing secret. But there is an irony here. One of Van Ark's proudest Knots Landing memories involved removing her makeup on camera in a long, emotionally demanding scene. The transformation mattered because nothing was hiding the performance underneath. That may be the better way to remember her. Faces inevitably change, whether through age, personal choices, or both. What survived was the emotional connection Van Ark created with viewers who still recognize Valeen decades later. And our next story makes judging appearance even more complicated, because cosmetic choices weren't the only possible reason her face changed. Cayetana Fitzjames Stewart, the Duchess of Alba, never lived an ordinary life. Born into one of Spain's most historic aristocratic families, she inherited extraordinary titles, wealth, and public attention. Yet as she grew older, another subject increasingly followed her through newspapers and magazines: her appearance. Her changing features generated years of reports and speculation about cosmetic procedures. But photographs cannot provide a medical history, and the precise extent of any work attributed to the Duchess was never documented publicly in the way it was for celebrities who openly describe their procedures. That distinction becomes especially important with an elderly public figure. Aging itself changes facial volume, skin, expression, and structure. Without reliable confirmation, assigning every visible difference to surgery turns observation into diagnosis. Perhaps the more revealing story was how little the scrutiny seemed to restrain her. The Duchess continued appearing publicly, dancing, dressing as she pleased, and, in her 80s, marrying Alfonso Diaz, despite enormous attention surrounding the relationship. Her face became something strangers debated. Her life, however, remained unmistakably her own. And the next woman knew that kind of scrutiny from childhood, because she grew up inside one of the most famous families in entertainment. LaToya Jackson never had the luxury of being judged only as herself. She grew up inside one of the most famous musical families in America, where talent, success, and eventually appearance were constantly compared. As the Jackson name became a global phenomenon, LaToya's changing look attracted years of attention. Cosmetic surgery became part of that conversation, but many specific procedures attributed to her have come from speculation, rather than LaToya publicly documenting every change. What she has discussed is the thinking behind cosmetic choices. Speaking with Larry King, LaToya argued that people naturally find things about themselves they dislike, and that changing something can be a personal decision. She also recalled discussing Michael's unhappiness with his nose before he changed it. That perspective reveals something photographs cannot. Inside this extraordinary family, appearance wasn't merely something strangers discussed. Questions of self-image existed behind the fame as well. For LaToya, perhaps the deeper story isn't how many procedures someone believes she had. It's what happens when a person spends a lifetime seeing herself reflected through comparison, headlines, and public judgment. But our next star approached cosmetic work very differently. She talked about it with humor, ownership, and remarkably little apology. Dolly Parton has never asked the world to believe that her famous appearance happened by accident. The towering blonde hair, dramatic makeup, sparkling clothes, and carefully maintained figure became part of a character she created and controlled for more than half a century. And unlike stars who avoided questions about cosmetic surgery, Dolly often answered them with a joke. She has openly acknowledged having cosmetic work, and famously explained that if something began bagging, sagging, or dragging, she would have it taken care of. Even at 80, she could still laugh about the subject, joking that she had outlived some of her plastic surgeons. But beneath the humor is something more revealing. Dolly never presented looking younger as the secret to her success. She understood that her exaggerated appearance was part of the show, while her songwriting, discipline, business instincts, and personality were what sustained the career behind it. That distinction may explain why cosmetic surgery never became the defining tragedy of her story. She acknowledged the artifice instead of pretending it wasn't there. For Dolly, changing her appearance seemed less about erasing who she was than maintaining the image she had deliberately created. But the next woman believed she was making a controlled cosmetic choice too, until her body responded in a way she never expected. In the 1990s, Linda Evangelista possessed one of the most valuable faces in fashion. She could change her hair, her style, even her entire image, and somehow remain unmistakably Linda. Reinvention was part of what made her a supermodel. Years later, however, she made a cosmetic choice that produced a transformation she never intended. In 2015 and 2016, Evangelista underwent cool sculpting, a non-surgical treatment designed to reduce areas of fat. Instead, she said treated areas became larger and harder. A doctor later diagnosed her with paradoxical adipose hyperplasia, or PAH, a rare complication in which fatty tissue grows rather than shrinks. Evangelista said the experience devastated her confidence. She withdrew from public life for roughly 5 years and underwent attempts to correct the condition. In 2021, she finally revealed what had happened, explaining that she was tired of hiding. The legal dispute with cool sculpting manufacturer Zeltic was eventually settled in 2022. But perhaps the more meaningful recovery was personal. Evangelista began returning to fashion, appearing again in campaigns, on magazine covers, and eventually on the runway. For a woman whose career depended on controlling her image, losing that control was devastating. Speaking publicly became one way of taking part of it back. And our final star also lived with a cosmetic decision he wished had turned out differently. But age eventually gave him a surprisingly thoughtful way of looking back. For generations of Americans, Kenny Rogers was instantly recognizable. The silver hair, the beard, the weathered face, and a voice that could make a story feel personal. By the time The Gambler became a signature song, that image was part of country music history. But Rogers was not immune to worrying about getting older. He openly acknowledged having cosmetic surgery, including work around his eyes. The result troubled him. Years later, Rogers explained that the surgeon had positioned the outer edges of his eyes higher than he wanted. He regretted the result, but his reflection on that regret became surprisingly measured. Rogers admitted that he could never know what he would have looked like had he done nothing. Eventually, he reached a kind of acceptance. He had made the decision, the outcome wasn't exactly what he wanted, and he had to live with it. That perspective feels especially meaningful because his audience ultimately stayed for something surgery could neither create nor erase. They stayed for Lucille, for Lady, for Islands in the Stream, and of course, for The Gambler. Perhaps that is the quiet lesson behind all 8 stories. A face may change dramatically over a lifetime, but a meaningful legacy is built from something much harder to alter. Looking back at the lives of these stars, it is clear that the decision to go under the knife is never a simple one. Some choices instill confidence, while others lead to regret. Some result in unforeseen complications. In other instances, public chatter reveals more about our own obsession with appearances than it does about the true nature of the person being judged. For generations, Hollywood has taught stars the vital importance of maintaining a youthful look. Yet, they are rarely taught how to age naturally under the watchful eyes of millions of strangers. Ultimately, however, time reveals values that a camera lens cannot capture. Goldie's laughter, Dolly's songs, Linda's resilience, Kenny's distinctive voice. These are the things that endure, regardless of how their appearances change over the years. Perhaps aging was never the enemy these stars had to fight. Perhaps the far more arduous battle lies in accepting a simple truth. No face, no matter how famous, can remain forever unchanged. And perhaps that is something worth remembering whenever we look at ourselves in the mirror.
A dressing room mirror still glowed long after the cameras stopped rolling. Makeup brushes rested on the counter, tuxedos hung neatly on polished wooden doors, and a stack of studio publicity photographs waited to be approved before sunrise. Every smile in those photographs had been carefully rehearsed. Every headline had been negotiated. Every public appearance was designed to protect an image that could never crack. For generations, audiences believed they knew the stars they admired. Yet behind many celebrated careers stood contracts, gossip columnists, publicists, and an unforgiving culture that often demanded silence over honesty. Some performers learned to separate the person they truly were from the person the world expected to see, carrying that quiet burden for years, sometimes for an entire lifetime. Among those stories, one belongs to an actor whose calm dignity would eventually redefine what privacy, courage, and authenticity could look like in modern entertainment. Richard Armitage. The weight of a king's armor often hid the quietest battles. As Thorin Oakenshield in The Hobbit, Richard Armitage projected unwavering strength, while earlier television roles had already earned him admiration for his calm authority and measured performances. Fans saw confidence in every appearance. Yet the man behind those memorable characters carefully protected a deeply personal part of his life. Armitage has shared that he came out to the people closest to him when he was only 19, long before discussing his sexuality publicly. That decision reflected trust rather than fear. Even in a more modern entertainment industry, many performers continued to worry that being openly gay could influence casting decisions or limit opportunities to play romantic leading men. Instead of allowing interviews or headlines to define him, he concentrated on his craft, building a career through disciplined performances and emotional depth. He also chose to keep his relationship private, believing that success should come from the quality of his work rather than public curiosity about his personal life. His quiet approach challenged the growing expectation that celebrities must reveal every detail simply because they are famous. When Armitage later confirmed he had a longtime male partner, the moment felt gentle instead of dramatic. A reminder that honesty does not always arrive with fanfare. His story is less about secrecy than about choosing the right time to speak. That quiet confidence opened the door to another remarkable actor whose warmth and authenticity would prove that living openly could be both simple and powerful. Andrew Scott. One quiet smile across a church altar became one of television's most memorable moments. Many viewers first noticed Andrew Scott as the unforgettable Moriarty in Sherlock, then embraced his compassionate performance in Fleabag. His gift for expressing tenderness, longing, and restraint made every role feel deeply human. Yet his personal life never became the story he wanted audiences to remember. Scott publicly acknowledged that he was gay in 2013 without turning it into a dramatic announcement. He simply spoke honestly, believing his sexuality was only one part of who he was. Even in a more accepting industry, many actors still worried that openness could influence casting or narrow future opportunities. Scott refused to let those fears shape his choices. He continued pursuing emotionally demanding roles built on empathy, vulnerability, and truth, instead of protecting a marketable image. His performances explored love, grief, faith, and loneliness with remarkable sincerity, proving that audiences connect with authentic storytelling far more than carefully managed celebrity personas. By remaining open while keeping healthy personal boundaries, he demonstrated that honesty and privacy could exist together. Scott's influence extends beyond the characters he has portrayed. It lives in the quiet example he has set. He showed that authenticity does not require constant explanation, only the confidence to live truthfully. His journey encouraged a younger generation of performers to believe that openness could strengthen rather than weaken a career. Among them was Jonathan Bailey, who would confront many of those same unspoken fears while pursuing leading roles. Thunderous applause followed every entrance he made in Bridgerton. As Anthony Bridgerton, Jonathan Bailey transformed a proud, guarded nobleman into one of television's most beloved romantic leads. Audiences admired his confidence, charm, and emotional depth, while few realized that his greatest challenge had never been performing romance on screen. It was overcoming the fear that honesty might limit his future. Early in his career, Bailey heard advice that many actors before him had quietly accepted: stay private if you want leading roles. Although attitudes had changed since Hollywood's classic studio era, old assumptions still lingered beneath the surface. Some believed openly gay actors would struggle to convince audiences in traditional romantic stories. Rather than allowing that belief to shape his future, Bailey continued refining his craft and choosing demanding roles across theater and television. His performances demonstrated versatility instead of conformity, moving naturally between romance, drama, and historical storytelling. When he later spoke about those industry pressures, his words reflected neither anger nor bitterness. Instead, they revealed how invisible expectations can quietly influence careers, even in an industry that celebrates creativity and progress. Bailey's success became its own answer. Talent has never depended on hiding the truth. By earning worldwide recognition while remaining open about his identity, he challenged assumptions that had survived for generations. His journey offered hope to younger performers entering an industry still learning to leave old prejudices behind. Yet while Bailey chose openness on his own terms, another young actor would discover what happens when that choice is taken away by public pressure. Kit Connor. One television role changed both his career and his private life. Through Heartstopper, Kit Connor brought Nick Nelson to life with warmth, uncertainty, and quiet sincerity. Viewers connected deeply with the character's emotional journey, praising the honesty of his performance. Yet many forgot that the actor himself deserved the same patience and respect as the role he portrayed. As the series became a global success, speculation about Connor's sexuality spread rapidly across social media. Instead of allowing him to speak when he felt ready, strangers demanded answers about his personal life. In 2022, at just 18, Connor publicly shared that he was bisexual after months of online pressure. The experience revealed a modern form of scrutiny very different from the gossip columns of classic Hollywood, but equally intrusive. Although many fans supported him afterward, the moment raised an important question about whether public figures truly control their own stories. Connor responded by returning his attention to acting, refusing to let one announcement become the defining chapter of his career. Connor's journey reminds us that honesty has its greatest meaning when it is freely chosen, never when it is forced by public expectation. His calm response showed maturity beyond his years and quietly encouraged healthier conversations about privacy in the entertainment world. While Connor learned those lessons at the beginning of his career, another actor spent more than a decade protecting a deeply personal relationship before sharing it with the world. Kal Penn. Laughter introduced Kal Penn to millions of moviegoers before they knew anything about his private life. Whether entertaining audiences in the Harold and Kumar films, appearing in acclaimed television dramas, or serving in the White House, he built a reputation for intelligence, humor, and versatility. His career seemed completely open, yet one deeply personal chapter remained known only to those closest to him. Penn never described his relationship as a secret. He simply chose to protect it while balancing demanding careers in entertainment and public service. In 2021, through his memoir, You Can't Be Serious, he revealed that he had shared his life with his partner, Josh, for more than a decade, and that they were engaged. The news arrived quietly, without publicity or sensational headlines. It reflected a personal decision rather than a media event. By respecting both his own privacy and his partner's, Penn showed that public figures can live honestly without surrendering every detail of their lives. His story challenged the growing belief that visibility must always come before personal boundaries. Penn's journey reminds us that lasting love rarely depends on public attention. It grows through trust, patience, and mutual respect. By speaking only when the moment felt right, he demonstrated that authenticity does not follow anyone else's timetable. His quiet dignity became an example for countless performers searching for the same balance. That steady courage would find an even more influential voice in a legendary actor whose honesty helped transform the lives of generations to come. Sir Ian McKellen. Long before movie audiences embraced him as Gandalf or Magneto, Sir Ian McKellen had already become one of Britain's most respected stage actors. His commanding voice and remarkable range earned widespread admiration. Behind that celebrated career, however, stood a man who eventually realized that remaining silent no longer reflected the values he believed in. In 1988, McKellen publicly came out during the debate over Section 28, a British law restricting positive discussion of homosexuality in schools. Speaking openly at that moment carried real professional risk. Although already an established actor, he understood that honesty could still influence public opinion and future opportunities. Rather than stepping back, he chose to pair artistic excellence with public advocacy. McKellen later helped co-found Stonewall UK, becoming one of the country's strongest voices for equality. His activism never replaced his acting career, and his acting never weakened his commitment to fairness. Together, they formed a legacy built on extraordinary performances, integrity, and compassion for those who still felt unable to speak openly. McKellen's influence reaches far beyond awards or famous roles. It lives in the confidence he inspired in others. By proving that honesty and artistic excellence could stand together, he helped create a more welcoming industry than the one he entered decades earlier. His example opened doors for performers who followed, including one actor whose long journey toward recognition became a powerful reminder that perseverance can be its own quiet victory. Colman Domingo. Success arrived gradually, but Colman Domingo never allowed that to weaken his dedication to the craft. After years in theater, writing, directing, and supporting roles, wider audiences finally recognized the remarkable depth he brought to every performance. His portrayal of Bayard Rustin reflected quiet strength, compassion, and dignity, qualities that had defined his work long before international recognition arrived. Domingo built his career during a more accepting era than many actors before him, yet meaningful barriers still remained. As an openly gay performer, he refused to let his identity become either a marketing strategy or a limitation. Instead, he pursued challenging work across stage, television, and film, believing that authenticity should expand artistic freedom rather than restrict it. His acclaimed performance in Rustin honored a civil rights leader whose achievements had too often been overlooked because of prejudice. The role reflected Domingo's commitment to telling human stories with honesty, empathy, and respect, instead of reducing people to labels or headlines. Domingo's journey reminds us that perseverance often leaves the deepest legacy, not because it seeks attention, but because it quietly transforms the people who witness it. The actors in this documentary lived in different generations, yet they all searched for the same simple freedom: to live honestly without abandoning the careers they loved. Their stories deserve to be remembered with compassion, because behind every celebrated performance stood an ordinary person hoping to be accepted for who they truly were. The stories we have remembered today were never simply about fame or public recognition. They were about people who carried extraordinary expectations while trying to protect something deeply human. Some found the courage to speak early. Others waited until the world felt a little kinder. A few never experienced that freedom at all, yet each left behind more than memorable performances. They left examples of resilience, quiet dignity, and the strength to preserve hope, even when silence seemed safer than honesty. Their journeys also remind us that history deserves compassion more than judgment. Understanding the pressures these actors faced allows us to appreciate not only their talent, but also the personal sacrifices hidden behind careers that inspired millions. Every generation inherits the opportunity to create a more accepting world than the one before it. Which story in this documentary stayed with you the longest? And what lesson do you think it still offers today? Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story. What if I told you that some of Hollywood's biggest stars were once almost impossible to recognize, not because of makeup or aging, but because they made one of the bravest decisions of their lives? Today, you'll see the remarkable before and after transformations of transgender celebrities and discover the powerful stories hidden behind each image. Along the way, you may even recognize a few names you never expected to see on this list. Which transformation shocked you the most? Leave a comment below, subscribe if you enjoy Hollywood stories like these, and stay until the end for the most unforgettable transformation of them all. For years, millions of wrestling fans knew Gabby Tuft by a very different name, Tyler Rex, a powerful WWE superstar whose imposing physique, intense energy, and unmistakably masculine image made a lasting impression inside the ring. To the public, everything about that persona suggested confidence, strength, and certainty. Yet behind the spotlight, Gabby was fighting a far more difficult battle, one that no championship could ever resolve. While her wrestling career continued, she quietly struggled with a profound disconnect between the life the world celebrated and the identity she had long carried within herself. In 2021, Gabby made the life-changing decision to publicly come out as a transgender woman. The announcement stunned many longtime fans who could hardly believe the transformation before their eyes. But for Gabby, this was never about reinventing herself. It was about finally allowing the outside world to reflect the truth she had known for years. Rather than walking away from her past, she embraced it as part of the journey that shaped her resilience. Today, Gabby has become an advocate for authenticity, mental well-being, and self-acceptance. Her story reminds us that genuine strength is not measured by physical power or public image. Sometimes the greatest act of courage is simply choosing to live honestly, even when the entire world expects you to remain someone else. Long before Laverne Cox became one of the most recognizable transgender actresses in America, she was simply a young person trying to survive in a world that often refused to understand her. Growing up in Alabama, she has spoken openly about enduring relentless bullying, isolation, and the emotional toll of feeling different from an early age. Those painful experiences shaped her resilience, but they also fueled her determination to create a future where others might feel less alone. Everything changed when she was cast as Sophia Bursay in Netflix's groundbreaking series Orange is the New Black. Rather than presenting a one-dimensional stereotype, Sophia was written as a loving parent, a loyal friend, and a woman whose struggles and joys felt deeply human. The performance earned Laverne widespread acclaim and made history when she became the first openly transgender person nominated for a Primetime Emmy Award in an acting category. More importantly, millions of viewers were introduced to a transgender character whose story inspired empathy instead of misunderstanding. Since then, Laverne has used her platform to advocate for transgender rights, racial equality, and greater representation throughout the entertainment industry. Her influence extends far beyond acting, proving that authentic representation can change not only television, but public perception as well. And while Laverne opened doors on the biggest stages in Hollywood, another remarkable performer was preparing to bring an overlooked community and its rich history into the spotlight in a way few had ever imagined. Hailey Sahar became widely known for her unforgettable portrayal of Lulu Ferocity in Pose, the groundbreaking television series that introduced millions of viewers to ballroom culture and the lived experiences of transgender women in the 1980s and early 1990s. On screen, she radiated elegance, confidence, and quiet determination. Yet behind that graceful performance was a life shaped by challenges that began long before Hollywood ever came calling. Like many transgender women, Hailey has spoken about facing rejection, financial hardship, and the constant struggle to be treated with dignity. Opportunities were limited, and acceptance often felt out of reach. Rather than allowing those experiences to define her, she transformed them into emotional depth, bringing remarkable authenticity to every scene she performed. That genuine connection is one of the reasons Pose resonated so deeply with audiences around the world. The success of the series became a turning point not only for Hailey's career, but also for transgender representation in mainstream television. For the first time, many viewers saw transgender women portrayed as complex individuals with dreams, friendships, heartbreak, humor, and resilience, instead of outdated stereotypes. Hailey's performance helped remind audiences that visibility alone is not enough. It must be accompanied by honest storytelling and respect. Today, Hailey Sahar continues to inspire through both her work and her advocacy, proving that true representation is about far more than being seen. It is about allowing people to recognize the shared humanity that exists behind every extraordinary journey. Tommy Dorfman first rose to prominence through the hit Netflix series 13 Reasons Why, where her performance introduced her to a global audience almost overnight. Success seemed to arrive at exactly the right moment, bringing recognition, career opportunities, and a rapidly growing fan base. From the outside, everything appeared to be falling perfectly into place. Yet behind that success, Tommy was quietly navigating a deeply personal journey of self-discovery that few people fully understood. In 2021, Tommy publicly shared that she was living openly as a transgender woman. She explained that this was not about becoming someone new or chasing publicity, but about allowing the world to finally see the person she had always known herself to be. Rather than viewing her transition as a fresh beginning, Tommy described it as an act of alignment, bringing her public identity into harmony with her private truth. Her honesty resonated with countless people because it reflected a universal desire to live authentically, regardless of the challenges involved. Since then, Tommy has continued to build her career as an actress, writer, and creative voice, while speaking thoughtfully about identity, self-acceptance, and personal growth. Her story demonstrates that courage does not always arrive with dramatic speeches or headline-making moments. Sometimes it is found in the quiet decision to stop pretending and to embrace life with honesty. Tommy Dorfman reminds us that the most meaningful transformations often begin within, long before the rest of the world is ready to see them. Scott Turner. Schofield built his reputation in Hollywood not through overnight fame, but through years of persistence, thoughtful storytelling, and an unwavering commitment to authentic representation. As an actor, writer, producer, and public speaker, he has spent much of his career creating opportunities that once seemed impossible for openly transgender performers. While his name may not be as widely recognized as some Hollywood stars, his influence behind the scenes has been both lasting and significant. One of Scott's most important milestones came when he joined The Bold and the Beautiful, becoming the first openly transgender male actor to play a recurring role on an American daytime television soap opera. The achievement represented far more than a personal victory. It signaled that the entertainment industry was slowly beginning to recognize transgender actors as talented professionals capable of portraying meaningful characters, rather than being limited by stereotypes or token roles. Beyond acting, Scott has devoted years to consulting with television writers, producers, and studios to encourage more accurate and respectful portrayals of transgender people. His work has helped shape stories that reflect real human experiences instead of outdated misconceptions. Rather than seeking the spotlight for himself, he has focused on making the path easier for those who would follow. Scott Turner Schofield's journey reminds us that lasting change is rarely created by a single breakthrough. More often, it is built through patience, consistency, and the quiet determination to leave every door a little more open than it was before. Jen Richards has become one of Hollywood's most respected voices by proving that authentic storytelling can be just as powerful as great acting. While many performers focus solely on building successful careers, Jen chose a different path. She wanted to change the stories themselves. As an actress, writer, and producer, she recognized that for decades, transgender characters were too often portrayed as tragic figures, comic relief, or misunderstood outsiders. She believed audiences deserved something far more honest. Her breakthrough came with projects such as Her Story, Transparent, and later Mrs. Fletcher, where she helped present transgender characters as complete human beings with ambitions, relationships, humor, and everyday challenges. Rather than defining her characters by their gender identity alone, Jen emphasized the universal experiences that connect all people. That approach resonated with both critics and audiences, earning praise for bringing greater authenticity to television at a time when meaningful representation was still relatively rare. Outside of acting, Jen has remained a passionate advocate for improving transgender visibility throughout the entertainment industry. She has frequently spoken about the importance of allowing transgender people to tell their own stories instead of relying on outdated assumptions or stereotypes. Her influence has extended beyond the screen, encouraging writers, producers, and studios to create richer and more believable characters. Jen Richards reminds us that meaningful progress is not only about opening doors for new voices. It is also about changing the stories we tell, ensuring future generations see transgender lives portrayed with honesty, dignity, and the same complexity afforded to everyone else. Leah T emerged as one of the world's most influential fashion models by challenging long-standing ideas about beauty, identity, and acceptance. Born in Brazil and raised partly in Italy, she entered an industry that celebrated flawless appearances while often resisting those who did not fit traditional expectations. Long before she became an international fashion icon, Leah understood what it meant to feel different in a world that frequently judged people by what it could see rather than who they truly were. Her career reached a turning point when renowned fashion designer Riccardo Tisci recognized not only her striking presence but also her remarkable confidence and authenticity. Soon afterward, Leah became the face of major luxury campaigns, appeared on the covers of leading fashion magazines, and walked runways around the world. Her success proved that elegance and beauty could not be confined to outdated definitions. Instead of hiding her identity, Leah embraced it openly, inspiring both the fashion industry and millions of people who saw themselves reflected in her journey. Beyond modeling, Leah has consistently spoken about self-acceptance, resilience, and the importance of living honestly despite public scrutiny. She has shown that true confidence comes not from meeting society's expectations, but from refusing to abandon your own truth in order to satisfy them. Leah T's remarkable career reminds us that lasting influence is measured by more than magazine covers or designer labels. Sometimes, the greatest legacy is helping an entire industry broaden its understanding of beauty and proving that authenticity can be the most timeless style of all. Hunter Schafer has become one of the most recognizable transgender actresses of her generation, proving that authenticity and talent can redefine what it means to be a Hollywood star. Before audiences knew her from HBO's Euphoria, Hunter had already built a successful career as an international fashion model, working with some of the world's most respected designers. Yet behind the glamorous runway appearances was a young woman who had spent years learning to embrace her identity in a society that often struggled to understand it. As a teenager, Hunter became involved in advocacy for transgender rights after challenging policies that affected transgender students in her home state of North Carolina. Those experiences shaped not only her confidence, but also her determination to use her growing platform for something greater than fame. When she was cast as Jules Vaughn in Euphoria, audiences were introduced to a transgender character whose story extended far beyond stereotypes. Jules was portrayed with emotional depth, vulnerability, creativity, and hope, allowing millions of viewers to connect with her as a complete person rather than simply through her gender identity. Today, Hunter continues to balance acting, modeling, and activism while encouraging greater understanding and acceptance. Her journey demonstrates that meaningful representation is not only about appearing on screen, it is about inspiring future generations to believe that honesty, compassion, and self-confidence can open doors once thought impossible. Hunter Schafer's story reminds us that every generation has the power to move society one step closer to empathy, simply by having the courage to live authentically. As we've seen today, these remarkable journeys are about far more than dramatic before and after photographs. Behind every transformation is a human being who faced fear, rejection, uncertainty, and the difficult choice between living according to society's expectations or embracing their true identity. Whether you agree with every decision or not, it is hard to ignore the courage it takes to live honestly in front of the entire world. Their stories remind us that compassion is often more powerful than judgment, and that every person deserves the opportunity to be seen for who they truly are. Perhaps the greatest lesson isn't about changing how we look, but about finding the strength to become our most authentic selves. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Which story inspired you the most, and what message did you take away from these incredible journeys? Share your opinion in the comments below. Thank you for watching Hollywood Katie. If you enjoy thoughtful stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video. Have you ever looked at a Hollywood legend and wondered, what happened to that unforgettable face? Some of the world's most admired celebrities chased eternal youth, only to become cautionary tales that shocked millions. But behind every dramatic transformation lies a story far more heartbreaking than the headlines ever revealed. Today, we'll revisit 20 of the most talked-about celebrity plastic surgery disasters, compare their then and now appearances, uncover the pressures that pushed them toward life-changing decisions, and reveal the emotional consequences many never expected. Which transformation surprised you the most? And do you think Hollywood's beauty standards are to blame? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's begin. There was a time when Mickey Rourke was considered one of the most handsome and magnetic leading men in Hollywood. During the 1980s, his unforgettable performances in films like 9½ Weeks, Diner, and Angel Heart made him a symbol of rugged charm and undeniable charisma. Few could have predicted how dramatically his appearance and his life would change in the years that followed. At the height of his acting career, Rourke made the surprising decision to leave Hollywood and pursue professional boxing, a sport that subjected his face to repeated injuries and broken bones. Hoping to repair the damage, he underwent multiple reconstructive surgeries. Years later, Rourke admitted that several procedures produced disappointing results, explaining that he had trusted the wrong surgeons during a difficult period of his life. Instead of restoring his familiar features, the operations left him looking almost unrecognizable. Despite the physical transformation, Mickey Rourke never gave up on his passion for acting. His acclaimed comeback in The Wrestler reminded audiences that true talent cannot be erased by changing appearances. His journey serves as a powerful reminder that behind every shocking transformation is often a story of pain, resilience, and difficult choices, not simply vanity or the pursuit of perfection. Few artists changed the sound and style of hip-hop quite like Lil' Kim. Bursting onto the music scene in the mid-1990s as a member of Junior Mafia before launching a successful solo career, she became known for her fearless lyrics, unforgettable fashion, and unmatched confidence. To millions of fans, Lil' Kim represented strength, individuality, and the courage to stand out in an industry that often demanded conformity. Over the years, however, her changing appearance became almost as widely discussed as her music. Multiple cosmetic procedures, along with a noticeably lighter skin tone, fueled constant media speculation and public debate. Lil' Kim later revealed that years of emotional abuse in past relationships and relentless criticism of her appearance had deeply affected her self-esteem. Instead of seeing a confident superstar, she often saw someone who believed she wasn't beautiful enough. Her transformation sparked larger conversations about colorism, beauty standards, and the enormous pressure placed on Black women in the entertainment industry. While many people focused only on the physical changes, the real story was far more complicated. Behind every procedure was someone trying to heal emotional wounds while living under a relentless public spotlight. Lil' Kim's journey reminds us that confidence on stage doesn't always reflect confidence behind closed doors, and that fame can magnify insecurities just as easily as it magnifies success. At the turn of the millennium, Tara Reid was one of America's favorite young actresses. Her breakout role in American Pie made her an instant star, while films like Josie and the Pussycats and Van Wilder cemented her place as one of Hollywood's most recognizable faces. With her bright smile and effortless charm, she seemed destined for an even bigger career. Everything changed after she underwent cosmetic procedures that did not go as planned. A breast augmentation and body contouring surgery left her with visible complications, including an uneven abdomen that she later described as deeply upsetting. For years, paparazzi photos magnified every imperfection, turning her private medical experience into endless tabloid headlines. Rather than celebrating her work as an actress, the media became obsessed with her appearance. To her credit, Tara Reid chose not to hide from the experience. She openly discussed the physical and emotional impact of the surgeries, hoping her story would encourage others to think carefully before making life-changing decisions. While the unwanted attention affected both her confidence and career opportunities, she continued acting and gradually rebuilt her life. Tara's journey is a reminder that even successful celebrities can become victims of unrealistic beauty expectations, and that one difficult chapter should never define an entire career or a person's true worth. During the early 1990s, Lara Flynn Boyle became one of television's most unforgettable stars. Her haunting performance as Donna Hayward in Twin Peaks made her a household name, while roles in films such as Wayne's World and Men in Black further established her as a talented actress with a distinctive beauty. With her expressive eyes and elegant features, she represented the effortless glamour that defined an era of Hollywood. As the years passed, however, public attention gradually shifted away from her acting and toward her changing appearance. Rumors of cosmetic procedures intensified after she appeared with noticeably fuller lips and altered facial features. Whether every procedure was confirmed or not, the constant scrutiny surrounding her face quickly overshadowed the impressive body of work she had built throughout her career. Instead of discussing her performances, magazines and entertainment programs focused almost entirely on speculation about her appearance. Lara Flynn Boyle has rarely spoken publicly about the rumors, leaving much of the conversation to the media and public opinion. Her story illustrates how quickly Hollywood can reduce a respected actress to tabloid headlines centered on looks rather than talent. It also serves as a reminder that aging in the spotlight comes with extraordinary pressure. For many celebrities, the greatest challenge isn't growing older. It's living in an industry that rarely allows them to do so without relentless judgment. Long before cosmetic surgery became a common topic in entertainment news, Lin May was celebrated as one of Mexico's most glamorous performers. Rising to fame during the 1970s and 1980s, she built a successful career as a dancer, actress, and cabaret star. Her striking beauty, magnetic stage presence, and confidence made her a cultural icon throughout Latin America, earning admiration from audiences far beyond Mexico. As the years passed, however, the pressure to preserve her youthful appearance led her to seek cosmetic enhancements. According to Lin May, what she believed were beauty injections turned into a life-altering mistake when unqualified individuals injected a mixture of cooking oil, baby oil, and water into her face instead of approved cosmetic fillers. The severe complications left her with permanent facial deformities, requiring numerous corrective procedures over the years. Rather than restoring her appearance, each attempt became another difficult chapter in a long struggle. Unlike many celebrities who chose to remain silent, Lin May openly shared her painful experience and repeatedly warned others about the dangers of trusting unlicensed cosmetic treatments. Her story is no longer just about beauty or aging. It is about misinformation, desperation, and the devastating consequences of unsafe procedures. Today, her journey stands as a powerful reminder that protecting one's health will always matter more than chasing an impossible standard of perfection. Raji Narayana Singh's story is one of the most heartbreaking examples of how the desire to look and feel like yourself can be exploited. A transgender woman from Florida, Raji spent years searching for acceptance and confidence in a world that often judged her harshly. Like many others seeking affordable cosmetic procedures, she placed her trust in someone who promised dramatic results without the high cost of licensed medical treatment. That decision changed her life forever. The person she believed was performing cosmetic injections was later exposed as an unlicensed practitioner who injected dangerous substances, including cement, mineral oil, and industrial materials, into her face. Painful lumps, severe facial deformities, and recurring infections followed, leaving Raji physically and emotionally devastated. Her case attracted national attention and eventually became one of the most widely reported cosmetic fraud scandals in the United States. Fortunately, Raji refused to give up. With the help of skilled reconstructive surgeons and years of treatment, she gradually regained both her appearance and her confidence. She has since shared her experience publicly to educate others about the dangers of illegal cosmetic procedures and the importance of seeking qualified medical professionals. Raji Narina Singh's journey is not simply about surviving a cosmetic disaster. It is a powerful story of resilience, hope, and turning unimaginable hardship into a mission to protect others from making the same tragic mistake. Bella Hadid has become one of the defining supermodels of her generation, walking for the world's biggest fashion houses and appearing on countless magazine covers. With her striking features and unmistakable runway presence, she quickly rose to the top of the fashion industry. Yet despite her extraordinary success, discussions about her appearance have often overshadowed her accomplishments. For years, the internet has been filled with side-by-side, then and now photos, fueling endless speculation about cosmetic procedures. Bella has acknowledged undergoing a nose job at the age of 14, a decision she later admitted she regretted. However, she has consistently denied having extensive facial surgeries or relying on fillers to achieve her current look. Even so, every public appearance continues to spark fresh debates, with critics dissecting every detail of her face instead of recognizing the dedication behind her career. Bella has spoken candidly about struggling with anxiety, low self-esteem, and the pressure of growing up in the spotlight. Her experience reflects a larger reality in today's entertainment and fashion industries, where social media magnifies unrealistic beauty standards and invites constant comparison. Whether the rumors are true or not, Bella Hadid's story reminds us that living under relentless public scrutiny can be just as emotionally exhausting as any cosmetic procedure. Sometimes, the greatest burden isn't changing your face. It's feeling that the world expects you to keep changing it forever. When Megan Fox burst onto the Hollywood scene in the mid-2000s, she quickly became one of the industry's biggest stars. Her breakout performances in Transformers and Jennifer's Body, combined with her striking features and undeniable screen presence, earned her a reputation as one of the most beautiful women in the world. To many fans, she seemed to embody effortless perfection. Ironically, that image also brought relentless scrutiny. Over the years, comparisons between old and new photographs fueled constant speculation about cosmetic enhancements. While Megan has acknowledged receiving Botox and undergoing a breast augmentation, she has firmly denied many of the more dramatic claims circulating online, insisting that much of her changing appearance can be explained by makeup, aging, photography, and natural weight fluctuations. Nevertheless, every public appearance continues to spark fresh debates about whether she has had additional procedures. Beyond the rumors, Megan has spoken openly about struggling with body dysmorphia, revealing that she has never truly seen herself the way others do. Her honesty exposed a painful reality hidden behind celebrity glamour. Even women widely considered among the world's most beautiful can battle deep insecurities. Megan Fox's story reminds us that physical beauty does not guarantee inner confidence. In Hollywood, where perfection is often expected but never attainable, the greatest challenge may not be changing your appearance. It may be learning to accept yourself despite the endless judgment of others. As we've seen today, every dramatic transformation tells a story far deeper than a before and after photograph. Behind the headlines, the rumors, and the shocking images are real people who faced extraordinary pressure to remain young, attractive, and relevant in an industry that rarely forgives aging. Some sought confidence. Others hoped to repair injuries or overcome painful insecurities. But many discover that changing the outside could never fully heal what was happening within. Perhaps the greatest lesson from these journeys is that true beauty cannot be measured by flawless features or impossible standards. It grows from self-acceptance, confidence, and the courage to embrace who we are at every stage of life. Before we judge someone's appearance, It's worth remembering that we rarely know the struggles hidden behind their smile. Which story affected you the most? And do you believe Hollywood's beauty standards have done more harm than good? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and join us again for more fascinating stories from Hollywood's past and present. Until next time, take care. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new videos. See you in the next one. There was a time when these women seemed untouchable. Their beauty filled magazine covers, their voices echoed through sold-out theaters, and their talent helped reshape American music and entertainment. To millions of fans, they represented elegance, confidence, and success. But behind the glamorous photographs and standing ovations, many were carrying burdens that few people ever saw. Some battled discrimination in an industry that rarely gave Black women equal opportunities. Others endured abusive relationships, devastating illnesses, financial hardship, or heartbreaking personal losses. A few reached the very top of fame, only to spend their final years in poverty or near complete obscurity. Their stories remind us that applause can fade, while pain often remains hidden behind the spotlight. Today, we'll revisit 8 remarkable Black female legends whose extraordinary beauty captivated the world, but whose lives unfolded in ways that were far more tragic than most people ever realized. Their journeys are unforgettable, and the final story may leave the deepest impression of all. Long before glamorous stage performances became the norm, Joyce Bryant had already mastered the art of commanding attention. With her striking silver hair, dazzling figure, and unforgettable stage presence, she became one of the most talked-about entertainers of the early 1950s. Newspapers often compared her popularity to Hollywood's biggest stars, while audiences were captivated by a remarkable vocal range that allowed her to move effortlessly from soft, intimate melodies to powerful, dramatic performances. Yet the image that made her famous came at a cost. To maintain her signature look, Bryant repeatedly used harsh metallic hair coloring methods that damaged her scalp. At the height of her success, when many believed she was destined for even greater fame, she made a decision that stunned the entertainment world. In 1955, she walked away from celebrity life to pursue her faith and enrolled in a religious college, leaving behind sold-out venues and national headlines. Years later, she quietly reinvented herself as a classical and opera singer, proving that her extraordinary talent extended far beyond popular music. When Joyce Bryant passed away in 2022 at the age of 95, many younger audiences barely recognized her name, despite the enormous influence she once held. Her story reminds us how quickly fame can disappear, even for someone once considered unforgettable. But Joyce Bryant wasn't the only star whose career was overshadowed by forces beyond her control. The next woman became Motown's very first female superstar, only to discover how fragile success could be. Before Motown became a global music empire, Mary Wells was the artist who helped introduce its unmistakable sound to the world. With her smooth voice, graceful style, and unforgettable hit My Guy, she became the label's first major female superstar. Her success paved the way for future legends, and at the height of her career, she even toured with the Beatles, confirming her place among the biggest stars of the 1960s. Believing she deserved greater creative freedom and better financial opportunities, Wells made the difficult decision to leave Motown in 1964. Unfortunately, the move proved disastrous. Legal disputes, shifting musical trends, and the loss of Motown's powerful promotional support made it nearly impossible for her to recreate her earlier success. Although she continued performing, the spotlight gradually faded. In 1990, Wells was diagnosed with cancer of the larynx, a cruel illness for a singer whose voice had inspired millions. Mounting medical bills and limited insurance left her facing serious financial hardship until fellow artists stepped forward to help. She passed away in 1992 at only 49 years old, leaving behind a legacy that far exceeded the recognition she received during her final years. But if Mary Wells' downfall was heartbreaking, the next story is even more devastating. One unforgettable collapse on stage would forever change the life of Tammy Terrell. Few voices in Motown history created as much magic as Tammy Terrell's. Born Thomasina Winifred Montgomery in Philadelphia, she began performing as a child and quickly impressed audiences with her natural talent and radiant personality. Her career reached extraordinary heights after partnering with Marvin Gaye, producing timeless classics such as Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Your Precious Love, and Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing. Their chemistry was so convincing that many fans believed they were a couple, even though they always described each other as close friends. Behind her bright smile, however, Terrell faced painful personal struggles. Several relationships were marked by emotional turmoil, and concerns about her health had followed her since her teenage years. On October 14, 1967, during a concert in Virginia, she suddenly collapsed into Marvin Gaye's arms while performing. Doctors soon discovered a malignant brain tumor, beginning a heartbreaking battle that included multiple surgeries over the next 3 years. Despite extraordinary courage and determination, Tammy Terrell passed away in 1970 at just 24 years old. Her death deeply affected Marvin Gaye, who struggled emotionally for years afterward. Though her career lasted only a few years, her voice remains one of Motown's most cherished treasures. Yet Tammy Terrell wasn't the only Motown star whose dreams were shattered. The next woman helped create one of the greatest girl groups in history, only to watch success slip away from her own hands. Before the world knew them as one of Motown's greatest success stories, Florence Ballard was the woman who helped bring together the group that would become the Supremes. Blessed with a rich, powerful voice and remarkable stage presence, she played a vital role during the group's early years. But as Motown increasingly centered its marketing around Diana Ross, Ballard found herself pushed further into the background. What began as subtle changes in the spotlight gradually became a painful reality that altered the course of her life. By 1967, Ballard was dismissed from the group after struggling with personal difficulties and alcohol abuse. Losing her place in the Supremes also meant losing the career she had helped build from the very beginning. Attempts to launch a solo career failed to gain momentum, while financial problems continued to grow. Once surrounded by fame and admiration, she eventually relied on public assistance to support herself and her 3 daughters. Florence Ballard died in 1976 from coronary artery thrombosis at only 32 years old. Although her life ended tragically, historians now widely recognize her contribution to the birth of one of the most influential vocal groups in music history. Her story remains a powerful reminder that fame often shines brightest on only a few, while others who helped create the success are quietly forgotten. But outside the world of Motown, another extraordinary performer paid a very different price, not for her music, but for speaking her mind. Few entertainers possessed the charisma of Eartha Kitt. With her unmistakable voice, magnetic beauty, and fearless confidence, she built an international career that crossed music, film, television, and Broadway. Songs like Santa Baby made her instantly recognizable, while her sophisticated style and captivating performances earned admiration around the world. At a time when opportunities for Black women were still painfully limited, Kitt refused to be confined by expectations. That independence came at a heavy price. In 1968, during a White House luncheon hosted by First Lady Lady Bird Johnson, Kitt openly criticized the Vietnam War and spoke about its impact on America's young people. Her remarks sparked a political backlash that severely damaged her career in the United States. Performance invitations disappeared almost overnight, forcing her to spend much of the following decade working in Europe instead of Hollywood. Rather than surrender, Kitt gradually rebuilt her career through theater, concerts, and television appearances, eventually earning renewed appreciation from American audiences. She continued performing well into her later years before passing away from colon cancer in 2008 at the age of 81. Today, she is remembered not only for her extraordinary talent, but also for her courage to speak honestly when remaining silent would have been far easier. But while Eartha Kitt fought political consequences, The next woman's greatest battle took place within her own mind, and it ultimately proved impossible to escape. Standing nearly 6 feet tall with an elegant presence and one of the most distinctive voices in R&B, Phyllis Hyman seemed destined for lasting stardom. Throughout the late 1970s and 1980s, she captivated audiences with emotionally rich performances and unforgettable songs such as You Know How to Love Me and Living All Alone. Behind the glamour, however, Hyman quietly struggled with emotional pain that few people around her fully understood. For years, she battled severe depression and was later diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Like many artists of her era, she often tried to cope privately while continuing to perform for thousands of fans. The pressure of maintaining a successful career, combined with deeply personal losses, gradually became overwhelming. In 1995, only hours before she was scheduled to appear at New York's Apollo Theater, Hyman was found dead in her apartment. She was just 45 years old. A note she left behind contained only a few heartbreaking words, expressing how exhausted she had become. Today, Phyllis Hyman is remembered not only for her extraordinary voice, but also as a reminder that mental illness can remain hidden behind fame, applause, and success. Her legacy continues to encourage more open conversations about emotional health within the entertainment industry. Yet perhaps no singer endured greater suffering at the hands of both addiction and the authorities than the legendary Billie Holiday. Few singers transformed emotion into music as powerfully as Billie Holiday. Known affectionately as Lady Day, she possessed a voice unlike any other, one that conveyed heartbreak, resilience, and vulnerability with every note. Classics such as Strange Fruit, God Bless the Child, and Lover Man established her as one of the greatest jazz vocalists of all time. Yet behind her remarkable artistry lay a lifetime marked by poverty, abuse, addiction, and relentless hardship. Holiday's childhood was filled with instability and trauma, experiences that profoundly shaped both her music and her personal life. As her fame grew, so did her struggles with narcotics, bringing her into repeated conflict with federal authorities. Her haunting performance of Strange Fruit, a song condemning racial violence, also made her a controversial figure during a deeply divided era. By the late 1950s, years of addiction had severely damaged her health. While hospitalized in New York in 1959 with liver and heart complications, she was placed under police guard following a narcotics arrest. She died soon afterward at just 44 years old. Although her life ended in heartbreaking circumstances, Billie Holiday's influence has only grown stronger with time. Her voice continues to inspire generations of musicians and remains one of the defining sounds of American music history. But the final story belongs to the woman who shattered one of Hollywood's greatest barriers, only to pay an unimaginable personal price for doing so. Long before Hollywood began offering meaningful leading roles to black actresses, Dorothy Dandridge broke through one of the industry's highest barriers. Elegant, charismatic, and blessed with extraordinary screen presence, she became an international sensation after starring in Carmen Jones, 1954. Her performance earned her a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Actress, making her the first black woman ever recognized in that prestigious category. For millions of fans, Dandridge represented a new era of possibility and hope, yet Hollywood proved far less welcoming behind the scenes. Despite her historic achievement, she was repeatedly offered stereotypical or demeaning roles that failed to match her talent. Declining many of those parts protected her dignity, but left her career with fewer opportunities. At the same time, financial difficulties, a troubled marriage, legal disputes, and the responsibility of caring for her daughter placed enormous pressure on her personal life. As acting offers became increasingly scarce, her debts continued to grow. On September 8, 1965, Dorothy Dandridge died from an accidental overdose of antidepressant medication at just 42 years old. Reports from the time indicated that only a few dollars remained in her bank account, a heartbreaking contrast to the glamour she had once embodied. Today, she is remembered not simply as a Hollywood beauty, but as a courageous pioneer whose achievements forever changed the opportunities available to future generations of Black actresses and performers. Behind every glamorous photograph was a woman whose life was far more complicated than the public ever imagined. These 8 remarkable artists gave the world unforgettable music, unforgettable performances, and timeless beauty, yet many also carried burdens that fame could never erase. Their stories remind us that success is often measured by applause, while the greatest struggles remain hidden behind the curtain. Today, their legacies are remembered not because they were perfect, but because they persevered through extraordinary challenges and forever changed American entertainment. They opened doors, broke barriers, and inspired generations of performers who followed in their footsteps. As we celebrate their achievements, perhaps the greatest tribute we can offer is to remember the people behind the legends, not just the stars we admired on stage or screen, but the human beings who laughed, suffered, hoped, and dreamed like everyone else. Thank you for joining us on this journey through history. If one of these remarkable women touched your heart, let us know her name in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the legends of Hollywood alive.